Hey everybody. So it's been a couple of weeks. And so I just want to give an update. Right now, I am about to start on my maternal. So let me just give a quick update and then just let you know how I've been doing, some study tips, and then I've got to get back to studying because it's nursing school. So, hi guys, if you haven't seen me in a while, that's because I'm in nursing school. And so, the issue with the schedule and everything, and let me get my my handy dandy planner. So, basically, what I've been doing is making sure my days are planned out for the whole, so like the whole semester, I have everything, I mean, as far as planned out on the planner. Everything in here till May. And so what I've done is by day what I need to accomplish. And so what I have figured out, because that's what you want to know, right? Like, how do I get through this? So what I figured out was from day one, when we started getting all this information in, any kind of assignments online, any kind of turn-in assignments that we have to do by paper. I literally have lost one paper since, for almost coming up 4 weeks because we start on the 17th. And what's today? The 16th, so the day before a month. And so, y'all, so I've just been trying to keep up. And this is a transition, like you already know. I'm transitioning to an RN. I'm loving it. I'm really loving the knowledge. Because y'all know I work in a hospital setting, long term care. This is something I've been wanting to do for a long time. It's coming up on 2 years of being here. And so, my idea is to learn and get more experience, learn in the field as far as with clinicals, and just kind of establish myself with what I already know and then what I need to know in order to, be the RN that I want to be, which is like top notch, like the great. And so at the end of the day, y'all, I give God the glory. This is not easy. Like we think when we do this that we're ready, and you can never be ready for nursing school. You can plan as much as you want to plan. You can do as much as you want to do. But at the end of the day, y'all, and never mind. Never mind the fact that the Christmas stuff is still up. I can barely like wash clothes. I can barely do a lot of stuff. So the issue, because I'm getting a lot of like reflection. So the issue, y'all, is really just making sure every day is planned, every day is set, so I don't have to keep going back and forth. So I bought a little lamp for my desk here, so I don't have to like keep all the lights on in the house. And I can keep this ambiance. You see this soft little ambiance? This is, where I need it to be at all times when I'm studying. So the first thing I do is like look in my planner, see what I need to look at as far as the day. And then usually I'm up before everybody, and so I can kind of plan out, okay, I go to school 3 days a week, I work 3 days a week, and then I go to church. And so that's just how it is. It just is what it is. And so at this point, I've taken a test or an exam in every class. And so that means OB, mental health, and then transition. So what I'm really going to be focusing on is study material, how I have learned to study, and what has really helped me. So the first test was OB, y'all, and so the first thing I did was go through the PowerPoints, and we had a gazillion. And so I print mine with three slides on one sheet of paper that has the lines to where you can make notes. So whenever you go to print it off, you can choose which one you want to print off. You can do them one by one if you want to, whatever you're capable of doing. I can do whatever I want to do because I get ink sent in the mail as my printer gets low, and so I did get some in the mail because it was getting low. And so at that point, though, y'all, I was just like studying for OB. I think we had like a week and a half to study for this test. So I made a 76 on that sucker. and then we got 2 extra points because of something that was messed up on the exam, so ended up with a 78. And all my friends, we still do, we have a group of 5 that we study with, and we quiz each other, and we bounce ideas off of one another, and it's great. It worked wonderful. So I thought. And so it kind of started off slow, but this is the thing. Like, if you can't study with people and you have to be by yourself, I'm learning as I go. So I've done very well on my own, especially in VN school. I maybe had like 2 or 3 people that I would study with and bounce ideas off of. That's a great idea for someone that is just not sure if they're getting the content they need. But as far as people that are like, oh, okay, I get it, study by yourself, sis. Study by yourself. And then if you need to, bounce an idea or something, call somebody and say, hey, listen, does this sound right? Or, am I understanding this correctly? And so I would use the PowerPoint, and then I would use, like I said, when I had gotten these are pretty long. Like, I don't really know how to explain it, but I use these. At first, I didn't think it was working, right? Because I made a 76, and you got to have a 75 to pass. And so they did say it was going to be one of the hardest tests in OB. It should get better, which I'm just waiting for her to have the baby, waiting for her to just deliver so we can go on with my life. And so OB it's not difficult to me. It's something I just don't have experience in, other than having a baby. And so all the technicals and stuff, it's just really getting me. But this is the thing, though. Even if I don't have experience, if I'm not understanding it, it will not grasp. And so with a week and a half, that's a lot of time to study, and I'm gonna tell you why. So then we move on to mental health. Now, mental health was like maybe 4 days to study for. And I say that because though the information is presented like over days of time, we only have 2 hours, literally, a class. So even if we meet up, and go to school, there's literally 2 hours a class. So there's only so much they can teach you in that day. Well, by the end of it, you should already have all your notes together. Well, I didn't. And I was still trying to figure out how I wanted to do my notes while studying for other classes. So to me, I knew I was going to struggle in OB the most, so I made OBs first. So after I did OB, I still had like 4 days with all the information to study. Now, granted, that's a lot of time, but when you're working, that's not a lot of time. That's literally studying, trying to study during work. You can't do that. It's just not, it's not easy for me. There may be days where you can, there may be days where you just can't. And so there was plenty of those can'ts. So then I would come home and study until like 10 or 11 o'clock at night, and then get whatever rest I could, and then get back up and go to work again. And then the only off day that I really, really just have is Sunday. And y'all know I like to praise the Lord. I'm a Jesus fanatic because I know what he's done for me. I don't know about y'all, but I know what he's done for me. I wouldn't be here without him. Wouldn't be here. And so at this point, I'm like, that's my emotional taking care of me, spending time with Jesus. Now, I do this on a daily basis, but as far as like community wise, it's just to connect with other people with like mindedness. And so I have to go to church at least once a week in order for me to feel connected to the body of Christ. And I'm gonna leave it at that, because there's maybe people that just don't, believe in going to church. It's in the Bible, I don't know how many times, but I can see, the need for other people that have the same type of understanding as I do, because not everybody understands. Not everybody knows what you're going through, but nobody actually knows what you've been through. Not everybody knows that, but people in your church, people in your community at the church know. And so they're praying for you, whatever you need. And there's been tons of times where they've asked me, do I need anything? Or, if we can help the family. And that's what I love, because at the end of the day, I'm going to say no. Because my faith is strong, but also because I just love hearing that somebody knows that I'm going through. I'm going through. And so I need that love. I need that. I need that. So as I'm going to work and stuff, so last week we took the mental health. Well, it was this week. It was on Tuesday. And I felt like it's been days since. So anyway, so what I did different was I just went through the PowerPoints and I wrote down what they had on the PowerPoints, right? And then I went to the book. And I looked in the book and I looked around and I looked through and I looked under and I looked on top of that sucker and I started to digest what was in these chapters. Only what was in those chapters, only what was on that PowerPoint. And I mean, all I looked at were these. And I mean, it had a question because then at first on my OB, I was just writing what it was. And then on the inside, I was writing notes about it, which was pertaining to the PowerPoint, what the test was supposed to be about. And granted, it's not about the test, it's more about the knowledge, like understanding this stuff. So, okay, so then I just wrote a question, what is mental health? And so then I would explain it in my own words, it from the book, gathering information from the book that made sense to me, and that way I could actually put it in a scenario or rationale what's going to happen. So as soon as I saw that question and I began to study what this was, automatically I had rationales in my heart, y'all. And so that's all I used. I also started on my phone recording myself saying, remember this, remember that, remember this. Oh, don't forget this. So when I went to work, if I couldn't physically look at this, then what I would do is listen with my headphones on while I'm charting or whatever, listening to myself study. So I believe that made a big difference too. Now I did that with OB, but the difference was I had them too long. So then I would just start separating them by the chapter because we have 10 chapters on one exam. So in mental health, y'all, I made a 92. And so that was on the first exam, mental health. Mental health, I didn't really have issues with, but a lot of what we're studying now, as far as RN goes, a little more in depth, as far as assessments and SBART, all those things. So we're looking at more than just what we learned for V in school, a little bit different. But I broke it down to where even what I would delegate or even what I would not pass on, so that I know my role as an RN. And so you never want to delegate any assessment, even if it's focused. VNs can really do a lot of what, like once the RN has done the full initial assessment, the VNs can go behind and like say, hey, maybe we need to adjust it here. I've seen this, this, and this. And so we can kind of like build on the assessment as a VN. And RN does that initial assessment. The RN does the initial assessment. You never delegate assessments to VNs. That's just in life. That's just in general. Take it, rub it, whatever you want to in the question. You never give the VN. Give them what their scope is required. They don't do assessments. We just don't do assessments, okay? So I'm learning that. I'm learning a lot as far as what the RN does. And so hopefully we get paid enough for what we do because it's a lot, sis. Anyways, so then I started studying what was next, transition. So transition's kind of going in, and so we had a lot dealing with transition. We would add a chapter, subtract a chapter. So I'm like really fumbling with notes, really just fumbling around. And so I finally got to a point where I was like, listen, whatever's on these PowerPoints she says to look at, that's what we're going to look at. And I went and did the exact same thing. I went and took my book, made my notes off the PowerPoints in which to study, in which to understand, rationale it in my heart. And then, y'all, at this point, I was doing study guides because some of these books come with little codes on the front of them that you can do study guides. So, what I would do is a whole bunch of questions after I feel like I've gotten the information. So, let me tell you how long I had to study for the transition. 2 days. 2 days. So, really, I'm having to put everything that I've learned from these first 2 weeks into play because at this point it was like, okay, well, I have an exam today, and it was today. And so 2 days ago on Monday, I was studying for the exam on Tuesday. Didn't have a note. Now I had a few notes for paint. Don't let me lie to you. I had a few notes for paint, but let me tell you, it was probably about this big. And usually my notes for like just, for like, just like, this is how much. And so, and these are not PowerPoints. These are like how I would distribute them. So if I felt like 2 PowerPoints would go together, 2 went together. So like one could be like 2 or 3 PowerPoints. But that's how I live my life now. So, and so I broke it down. So now I've like had this much cards basically of study notes, and I was like, I got to get it cracking. So really, what I did was, in order to like to make sure I gained all the information, I went through the PowerPoint, what she wanted us to know by then, because I had notes that were based off of what we first started off with, which had a whole another chapter on there, which we're doing now. And so now that I have to scratch all those notes and just pretty much start over, I begin to study. Like I said before, I took my PowerPoints, I used my book, I went through my book, I made sure I had notes. I used first question and then answering that question. And so when I saw it in a question, I knew exactly what to do. And so there was a few that I was kind of off. Now these new NCLEX styled questions where you have a drop down box and you have to say certain things, and it kind of goes in category with what it's asking for. Very new style for me, very new style. But I like it because you get those points. And then we're also having MedCal on there. And so we're using medications on our test as well as with the information that we've known. Now, we're not re-going over this. Once you take that Cal test, that's it as far as training goes. You say you know, so you know. And so we had it on this last test, and I mean, at the end of the day, I know they're going to start adding on MedCal, and so I know to look at those. But once I get a general sense, once I have a formula going, I'm okay. And sometimes they can kind of make it confusing, but at the end of the day, you just want to have your formulas in check. You want to make sure you know your ounces, you know everything that you're supposed to know, your drip factors, how to do those. You want to make sure that you understand before you get to the exam, because those are extra points, guys. Like those are freebies. Those are like, here you go, here's some bonus points. And so that made me glad. I was just like, I'm really good at math. I was in counting for like almost 5 years. And so it's nothing to do medication math. But at the end of the day, y'all, though, I do believe it'll get difficult because then you have to add in the fact of pounds and kilograms. And to me, even that, if you have a good formula, nothing will be hard for you as long as you have that formula. And so there are formulas out there that are really amazing that I could link, but I'm not going to. But if you just really want to see it, just hit me in the comments. But anyway, so at the end of the day, on a 2 day study, because I had my test today, I started studying on Tuesday. And I had my test today for transition, and I made an 89. And so the difference between, just really watching myself grow on this, because yeah, I should have made an A if I had more time, if I had actual more time. And so we have like 50 plus questions, and that's pretty darn good, to make an 89, because I was sweating bullets. And so hopefully my next video, because I really want to get better at IVs, that I can get my homegirl to record me doing some IV work, and some kind of technical, so you can kind of see on a dummy, of course, not on somebody. Lord Jesus, bless their heart. But this is why I'm here, because I want to be able to help. I want to be able to do IV. Everybody does. Every nurse out there, every good nurse wants to do an IV. She doesn't want to pass it on to somebody. And that's me, girl. That's me. So at the end of the day, y'all, we're getting it. We're going. And so we have no test next week. So that means a little extra time to kind of get my notes better. And so it's not cram, 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 but it's more of a stabilized note taking. So it doesn't feel like I have to cram. And so that's where I am right now. So right now I'm going to start studying for one of my classes, and then I will go to the next tomorrow. And so I work all weekend, and I'm off on Sunday. I'm really not off on Sunday, I'm sorry, but I ended up having to pick up that day because I actually have to go to a doctor's visit on Monday, because I go to school the rest of those other days and I work. So this actually took a month in advance. So it just is what it is, but I have to go. And so it just is what it is. But y'all pray my strength in the Lord. I feel your prayers. I thank you so much. There's so many people supporting me right now. Shout out to moms, my hubby, my pastor. There are so many people that I really want to name. There's so many people that, I just don't want to put their name out there just in case they're like skittish about internet. And I get it. But at the end of the day, the Lord is covering us. You just better have your faith. So, y'all, pray my strength in the Lord. Pray my strength in the Lord.